Greetings friends, in this short video we want to demonstrate how to calculate correlations using the Vassar Stats website. What I did in advance is prepare a couple of data sets that we're going to use for this demonstration. The first one is see if there's a relationship between hours spent doing homework and the score on a particular assessment. I think it's easier to go ahead and collect all the data, organize the data in a spreadsheet first, makes it easy to enter the data and also then to copy from that to the website. So once you've entered the data into a spreadsheet, you would then copy both cells at once, both columns at once. And then you would go to the website to enter that data. So here's VassarStats.net, and the tab we want is correlation and regression. And it'll bring us to this page, and these are the two that we're going to use for this demonstration, either basic linear correlations and regressions, which in our case is a relationship between a independent and dependent variable, or a matrix of correlations if you have more than two data sets you want to compare to see if there's a relationship between them. So basic linear correlations and data import version here. This will allow us to copy and paste from a website, from a spreadsheet. This is what will come up, and there's a lot of instructions here, and the data entry is what we want. Click on that, and then simply paste the data from the spreadsheet here. You see here are the two columns. And then just very simply, you hit calculate. There's a lot of numbers here. You don't need to know all those. If there's a course in stats, we would go through all of these in detail. But for our purposes, what you want to pay attention to is this number right here, the n, which is the number of pairs in the sample, 14 pairs. The n is 14. And then this is what you want to look at right here, the r and the r squared. What you can see is that the r is 48.489, which we said is a moderate relationship. Remember, 0 to 3 is weak or mild. 3 to 6 is moderate, and over 6 is strong. This is a moderate correlation. So spending time in homework makes some difference, but not all the difference. R is the strength of the correlation. And this R squared is an odd little phrase. It's called the percent of variance. And the way to remember this or think about this is if you had 100% of the variance, if you can explain 100% of the variance, that means you can explain all the reasons why why scores changed in one direction or another. If you're looking at just one of those factors, you can turn this into a percent, 23% or 24% if you round it, and say 20% of the variance is explained by preparing for the assessment by doing homework. Now, that means there's the 76% that's explained by other factors, innate intelligence, other coursework, and so on. But for our purposes, these two numbers tell us a lot. Homework is important, and it explains 24% of the variance. Now, let's say we wanted to look at a number of different variables and how they relate to each other and to other variables. So here we have, we went and found out the family income of some students and their SAT score, how they scored on a writing sample, and their GPA in college. So we want to see how all of these relate to each other. We go back to correlations and regressions, but for this one we want to create a matrix of intercorrelations, and you'll see what a matrix is in a second. Basically, it's a grid that shows all relationships at once. Again, the data import format, and we're going to, oops, excuse me, go back here. I forgot to hit the copy button. This will show you how to clear a mistake if you happen to make it. So now we paste all of those in. So here's all of our data in the 4 columns. Calculate. Now, With this, what you have is a box of grids showing the relationships between all the variables. This is variable 1, variable 2, variable 3, variable 4, same across the top. And the NaN means non-significant. But what it shows you is that there's a mild correlation between variable 3 and variable 2. If we go back here, variable 3 is the writing sample and variable 2 is the SAT score. So we would say that our assessment showed some kind of a correlation there. What we are mostly interested in here, though, is variable 4, which is the GPA. And so what kind of a correlation is there? Well, it shows there's no correlation between the GPA and family income, between variable 4 and variable 1. There's a slight or moderate correlation, negative 3.358, between the SAT score and the GPA. A very weak correlation between the SAT, or between the writing sample and the GPA. And you'll notice these are all ones, which basically says that there's always a correlation between the variable and itself, which makes sense, right? Because it is, as it changes, it automatically changes as well. So what this matrix shows you is where the strength of the correlations are. And so you would want to take a closer look at this one right here, the relationship between 4 and 2, the SAT score, and the GPA. And you'd be able to see from this that there's a mild correlation between those two. So what this matrix does is enables you to take all the data that you've collected, put it all in one place, and look at one grid. And then from there you can drill down further to see more about, or to try and understand more about the relationships that you're beginning to see by comparing all the variables to each other.